All right, welcome back, everyone. Nice to see you. So now we will start with our second part of today. So first we'll have the panel discussion on leadership in the Baltic Sea region, and then you can ask questions. So already prepare some questions while our speakers will introduce themselves. You can ask them on the chat. And as we did before with Tobias, feel free, ask any questions, anything you're interested in. They are really experts in their field, so just ask right away. If they don't know anything, then somebody else will send you a link to some data. This will work fine. All right, and as I said before, we will then have the documentary at 19:00 Central European Time, so 20 Eastern European Time. There won't be a quiz. There will only be the documentary then later on. But for now, I would like to introduce you to our panel shortly. The main thing will be done by our moderator, Johanna. I just want to say a little bit of background. So this one will be on leadership in the Baltic Sea region, especially from a youth perspective. As our youth platform that we just started now, the Baltic Sea Youth Platform, you remember bsyp.eu, always go on this website, is something that we want to have as an intergenerational dialogue, and we think this panel is a great way to start it. We have young people who are inspiring, and we have people who are part of the decision-making bodies. So we want to bring them together and share ideas, and maybe every one of you can take something out of this discussion, hopefully, and get active in your own local, regional, macro-regional, whatever area. So get inspired, be inspired. I now have the pleasure to introduce you to our moderator of the evening. This is Johanna Bücker. She has been an alumni of the Baltic Sea Youth 2019, was super active there and had a lot of great ideas regarding the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. Today, she will moderate this session, and she's joined by Julia Orluk, which you can already see, and Krystyna Wróblewska, and will soon be joined by Jonas and Dmitrijs as soon as I leave the stage. So have fun, and Johanna, take over and also have a lot of fun, and people remember to ask questions.
Thank you, Aline. I hope you can all hear me. Hello to everyone. I have the pleasure to guide you through this panel discussion tonight. And our topic for the panel discussion is leadership in the Baltic Sea region. We have 4 excellent panelists who will first introduce themselves for about 5 minutes each, followed by some questions by me, and then a common discussion round where first I will ask some questions, and then we invite you all to ask questions. You can post them in the chat, and then we'll select some and ask them to the panelists. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have. Don't be shy. The Baltic Sea Cooperation is a very complex system with many organizations, many movements. So if we do not manage to clarify this well, if we use too many abbreviations or professional slang, please speak up and ask anything you're curious about. Our panel today is gender balanced and generation balanced. We are very happy about this. And we are hoping to enhance the dialogue between the organizations and the movements that are active with youth engagement. And the guiding questions we have for tonight are the following. What is leadership in the Baltic Sea region for you? How can this diverse and yet very connected region be steered into a sustainable, democratic, and cooperation-minded future? Who can and should be the driver for this? And has the current health crisis changed something? So we would like to discuss all of these questions in the next 1.5 hours. We are very proud to present our first panelist, Julia Orluk. She's a member of the board of an organization called ReGeneration Baltic, and originally from Poland, from Gdansk. She's been very actively involved in a lot of youth events, and she's been part in the development of the Baltic Sea Youth Platform, and she will also be one of the active drivers of it for the further development. Our second panelist is Jonas Faergeman, the chair of the steering committee of the ReGeneration 2030 movement. The goal of the movement is to enhance the implementation of the sustainability goals in the Baltic Sea region, and the highlight every year is the annual ReGeneration 2030 Summit on the Åland Islands. Thank you very much for joining us. Our third panelist is Krystyna Wróblewska, the Secretary General of the Baltic Sea States Subregional Cooperation, the BSSSC. She's a veteran of the Baltic Sea Cooperation, and the BSSSC is one of the partners of the Baltic Sea Youth Platform, and an organization with one of the biggest pan-Baltic youth branches. The organization is representing various regions around the Baltic Sea area, and currently the Secretariat is located within the Pomorskie region in Poland. Our fourth panelist is Dmitrijs, and he's representing the Youthful Cities Commission of the Union of the Baltic Cities, UBC. The organization is the cooperation between cities in the region, and also for them, the youth is a very important part of their work. Same as the BSSSC, UBC is a partner of the Baltic Sea Youth Platform. Thank you all very much for joining us tonight. First, I would like to give the word to Julia. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Johanna. As you said, I'm a chairwoman of Euroregion Baltic Youth Board, and I'm active in this region, in Baltic Sea region, for last a little bit than 2 years, but I think that I'm quite involved in different projects, and I try my best to do as much as I can. I'm also a first-year student at Gdańsk University, so I think that I have a lot of in front of me, and a lot of challenge and a lot of new history to discover. I think that's all that I can say about myself. Maybe that I also work with a Baltic Sea Youth Platform, and that we met before with Johanna, and I participate in your panel, let's say, in the Baltic Sea Youth Camp, and it was very great, I would say.
Thank you very much. Let me ask you maybe 1 or 2 quick questions. Why do you think young people should engage in politics in the Baltic Sea region? What's the advantage? What's the challenge? What is motivating or inspiring you to get engaged for 2 years now?
I can say that the biggest inspiration for me are people that I met on my way. I would say that, of course, Ms. Krystyna Wróblewska, that is my boss, but also many young people that inspire me. One of them is Martin Rummelijn, and many people that I met, politicians, but also young people. I have to say that in front of young people are many challenges, and we have to be brave to not to stop. And I have to say that this is a very nice slogan, nothing about us without us. And I think that young people are also the future. We will grow and we will be adult, but now we should start our future, building it with our friends and people that we still don't know, but we will meet in our way.
So you said that there are some challenges, especially for the young generation. What would you say is the most disappointing, or what are some of the disappointing things that you experienced while being active in the region? Some of the setbacks, some of the special challenges in particular?
Honestly, when you ask me that, just one thing came to my mind. It's an event when we had an event for young people, and it was mostly about SDG. And in my opinion, we had a lot of great ideas, but we did not have opportunity to speak a little bit after that, even though there were an event where politicians met, where adults met, when they had a part for themselves. And the sadness was that one of my friends asked the question in front of everyone, and why we cannot say anything. And moderator did not let my friends, he did not let panelists to answer for that. And I think that this was only one sad situation and disappointing, but honestly, I can see that many others would like to listen to us, and we are not just a nice pin to the jacket. We are just they would like to listen to us and not only move their head, just speak, and we will take some nice photo, and that's all. But they really do something with our output, and I think that this is great and motivating.
Okay, so you named some of the challenges. Maybe we can have a last positive note from you. What would you wish for the future if you would have, for example, 3 wishes, let's say, to change something in the region, structurally and politically? What would you wish for if you could?
I wish maybe to involve more people from rural area, because it's still challenging, but it's changing and it's good. But also I would like to maybe have better communication between different organizations. Now we have this Baltic Sea Youth Camp, and this is a great example. And I think that a few years ago it would be not possible to make something like this with this old troubles, with this coronavirus and closed border. But I think that communication is also very necessary this time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then I would like to give the word to Jonas Faergeman, and please take the floor. Introduce yourself. I can't hear you.
No, I just fucked up.
Perfect.
I've unmuted myself. My name is Jonas Faergeman. I am 20 years old. Even I look like I'm 35. I promise you, I'm still one of the young people in this youth movement. I'm currently the chair of ReGeneration 2030, a multinational organization that is seeking to not only make ESGs more politically available for everybody to understand, and also make it a bit more interesting to people to engage with, and making it the cornerstone of our, contemporary progressive politics here in the region, and that being of the Baltic Sea. We are also focusing on making youth the main voice and the main protagonists of this movement, the ESG movement, and the agenda 2030 agenda in general. So yeah, that's what our thing is. Also, I'm Danish, and I apologize for my Danish accent, but it just shines through.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, a couple of questions to you. Why do you think it's worth being active in such a movement? What's the benefits you get, the positive things you take out of it?
Ooh, okay. When it comes to positivity, I'm gonna leave that on a side note and first talk about responsibility. For me, to not take responsibility when it comes to the progressive nature of our region is to somehow disappoint both yourself and your fellow inhabitants of your country and the region in general. I think the youth has some kind of responsibility to take over for the more conservative, lackluster politicians that have been dominating our region for so far. So I think that's one thing, is that you have a sense of empowerment once you actually start getting involved within it. There's a general tendency among the youth to feel that they have no power to change anything, which is quite frankly not the case. They have a lot of power and a lot of passion, and so getting involved, one is I think is a responsibility to be involved in politics in your region if you want something changed. Second of all, I think it's just it's a great sense of pride for yourself if you actually push something that you think makes your region better, and you know that you are one of the culprits of that push.
Thank you very much. I think it's very important to talk about this responsibility, and it's great if youth takes up this responsibility and fights for their interests. But how's the response you get? Like, as part of a youth-led organization, do you feel well respected within the region by the different actors, especially by political actors, or is there some reluctance to respect this push from the youth?
Yes and no. First of all, being involved in politics as a young person in the Nordics is definitely more easy and more readily available than being in the southern European countries, where it's very much more hierarchical structure than it is in our region. So I say that is a benefit for us. On the contrary, I'd say there is a tendency to youth wash your politics right now. If you can, as an adult contemporary political person where your career is to be on the front cover of some agendas, if you can have the young people creating the movement standing next to you on stage and say, I endorse these people, that's all good. You can just see all these big people from the states and the commission who suddenly want to have a selfie with Greta Thunberg and post that on Instagram. There's this idea that if you have the youth behind you, you are a good guy. But the youth see through that quite frankly. So yes, we are being taken seriously, but I also think there is this hidden opportunity missed when it comes to involving young people in the actual political climate. I would say it's very much a power game to the end.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very interesting to hear. We'll move on to our third panelist. Dmitrijs, please tell us a bit about you.
Well, yeah, my name is Dmitrijs. I'm here representing the Union of the Baltic Cities, and in particular Youthful Cities Commission, which is one of the 7 thematic commissions which work in the UBC. And as an organization, UBC addresses a variety of topics: culture, safety, urban planning, economics, youth issues, and all. Approximately at the moment we are around 70 cities, and some 20 of them are active in the Youthful Cities Commission. But I'm in this position since, as a chairman of the commission, since January. Before that, these tasks were, I would say, very successfully implemented by Karsten, who is one of the organizers of the event, and who for many people is a synonym with the UBC, I would say, in the region. And yeah, but on the daily basis, I work in the municipality of the city of Riga in Latvia, and I'm in charge of youth policy here.
Okay, thank you. Maybe you can tell us a bit more, give us some examples of what specifically you do in Riga. How do you contribute within the community that young people's voices are heard? Maybe you can give us some positive examples or examples of projects you did in the past so that we get an insight.
Well, one of the things we do and for which we feel very strong is youth participation, and we do think that participation should start at an early stage. That's why one of the very key focuses for us are people's councils in the education institutions, and we work a lot with active young people in the education institutions and provide support for them so that they have the knowledge, the tools to be involved in the decision makings within the school setting, but also beyond it, because we also think that they should have a voice on the city level as well, not just in the very close community. But again, to a certain extent, we can say that people's councils are a little bit of an elitarian way, because it's proportionally a little part of young people who are actually there. So we are also thinking of how to provide the floor for different groups of young people and for all of the young people in the end. And that's why in the last few years we were doing what we call regional forums, which are a very non-formal setting of meeting between decision makers, civil servants, young people themselves. And actually young people have been involved from the very beginning in organization of these meetings. So that, I would say, is a good story of ours, which we feel very proud of.
Thank you. That's great. And do you think that there is a connection that you could have, for example, with the Baltic Sea Youth Platform, or what's the role you see for it within the region as part of these projects, or in connection? Do you see that there's a use for it, that it could enhance the work you already do, or do you have some proposals what, for example, could be included in a youth platform to reach out, for example, to different groups of the society?
I'm actually very excited about the platform because in the area where there has been a lot of different players, everybody doing a fantastic job, but in their own scope, sometimes doing very similar things and not actually much with each other. And in this regard, the platform probably could be the universal answer to everything and everyone, like the 42 in a way, from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, if you know the connotation. Because, I mean, on one hand, it should be a place where you can meet people who think the same as you do. But on the other hand, it's also the place where to look for answers. Because again, there is a huge number of portals, web pages, and everything, but you can find the answers if you know where to look for. And if we can market something, one thing in the region, I would say that Baltic Sea Youth Platform should be the thing to market.
Okay, thank you. And now, last but not least, to Krystyna. You have the floor. Please tell us a bit about you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. It's my great pleasure to be here. And well, first of all, I'd like to say that my whole professional life has been about social relations. When I started being an interpreter in the old times, I was trying to help people from the Western world meet and understand the world that we were then in, cut off and isolated. Then in as of 1992, I started being responsible for the international cooperation, and I have been doing that for most of my professional lifetime. It's also about social connections and relations, basically, and a big portion of my professional career. You have already mentioned that I'm a veteran, and that's, well, for good and bad truth. I've been with the European Baltic Sea strategy since the beginning, because I, with my team, organized one of the first workshops preparing for that, then second annual conference, then I was involved in organization of last year's conference, annual forum, including Baltic Sea Youth Camp, which was a huge adventure, I would say, and a very positive one for us, and I'm happy that it has led to this one. I've been also involved in the cooperation within Euroregion Baltic and Baltic Sea Parliamentary Forum of the southern part of the Baltic, and since nearly the very beginning, I've been involved in the work of the Baltic Sea State Subregional Cooperation, which is a network of regions around the Baltic Sea area. And there Pomorskie chaired this organization in 2001-2004. We are chairing it again. And I've had the pleasure and honor to be Secretary General both times. I've been also involved in several, or supported several Baltic Sea-oriented projects, and just examples of them is Umbrella, which is about capacity building, Let's Communicate, which is about promoting and informing about the Euroregion Union strategy for the Baltic Sea region, or Water Project, it's obvious what it is about, or Herb Cultural Planning, which is about making citizens being more involved in having better cities and neighborhoods, etc., etc. So, and in all of the Baltic initiatives and networks, the youth have been very important. And in the BSSSC, we've been happy to have the youth councils again since nearly the very beginning. They have a voice on the board. They have full partnership on our board. We've arranged several, or they have arranged several events with our support along the annual conferences, but also separate events, including the Baltic Sea Youth Camp, which was to a great extent initiative of our youth coordinator, Martin Romalain.
Thank you. So you've mentioned that, especially in your organization, youth had a voice on the board, youth had a strong impact and was equally involved. Maybe I can ask you a personal question. What's the biggest advantage you get from your everyday work when engaging with youth, when involving them in your work? What's the advantage you can?
Well, first of all, if you ask me personally, it is that I am getting to know the world, and it is important when you are working in the area I'm working. It's important to have the picture and opinions and the view of life of all the generations, because we all make the world. Then it gives another perspective to what we are doing, and it goes not just for me but also for the networks that I cooperate in. It helps us understand where the world is going, most probably, because it is a different approach that we are getting to know, and it's also a lot of fun and excitement.
That's great to hear. Thank you. I hope many people think so. So thank you very much, everyone, for the introduction, to hear a bit about your work. It's very diverse. We heard a lot of what's going on in the Baltic Sea region, and it's impressive. So maybe we can get now to the general discussion part, where first I will ask you a couple of questions. And afterwards, please, everyone who's listening, don't forget to post your questions in the chat, because then I will get back to your questions and collect some and ask them equally to the panelists. So maybe a first question from my side. You have said that, or Krystyna mentioned in the end, that involving youth gives another perspective on our world today, and we've just experienced a huge health crisis. However, this health crisis, as we can see today, also has a strong impact on digitalization. Now we are all in this online event. So one question I would have to the panelists would be if you see an impact that the young generation could have for the more experienced one. For example, if we could have some kind of reverse mentoring, if as well as young people can learn from more experienced one, couldn't more experienced generations learn a lot from the younger generations, as one example regarding digitalization? What do you think about it? And maybe we start with Julia, as probably the youngest in the panel.
Could you repeat, because I'm not sure I heard question.
Sure.
Okay.
Or if someone would like to speak up, let me know. So my question would be, especially regarding that we've seen now with the corona that there's a strong impact on digitalization, couldn't it be that also more experienced generations, older generations, could learn a lot from younger generations? Couldn't we have some kind of reverse mentoring that while we learn a lot from older ones, we could turn this around and equally teach something to older generations and offer our different perspective and some of our experiences of our knowledge that we have? So what do you think, could the different generations maybe learn from each other and profit?
As you mentioned, I think that mostly about digitalization and using new tools to communicate. I think that it's well known now that we would like to stay in touch, and also young people use it more. Different tools as Zoom, as Microsoft Teams, and different platforms. And I think that this is the most something that we can learn now. But also our point of view, because we stay locked down. We had the lockdown also in Poland, and we could not really leave our house. So we try to stay in touch, and I think that we had a lot of time to think on different things, and to take different courses to see the world from different perspectives, and also everything a little bit slowed down. So yeah, we had time to think, to discuss it with our friends, to read a little bit more about different aspects, also about environment, and I hope, and I truly believe that next time when we meet personally, we will discuss it even more than we do it now.
Okay, so younger generations could maybe also contribute to a better connection, a better communication by using social media and newer forms of communication. Are there ideas or experiences on this?
Well, maybe I can add up to that. Well, I would say that it's not just about digital stuff. It's about a variety of stuff, and it's about mutual learning. I mean, in the city of Riga, we have supported quite a few projects with intergenerational learning, let's put it this way, where senior citizens do stuff together with young people. And the surprising thing behind it, that both sides are extremely excited and they're really having fun. And one of the things which was the topic was gaming. So the old senior people were teaching table games. Many young people have never seen them. And then the younger people were teaching some computer games, and they really did have fun. And there was another project where they were doing photography together. Calendar was one of the products. So it's a lot of things. And the great aspect of it, I actually think that both sides are very interested in it. And what we are probably needing at the moment is this push from those who can support them with the funding or with initiative or just encouragement to actually go into it.
If I may,
thank you.
If I may, I will go I will talk not so much about digitalization, but about, for instance, climate issues. Because I think that even though the older generation have or should have maybe bigger knowledge of the processes, it's obvious now that it is the younger people who are much more sensitive to the need for changes and what is happening in this sphere, and they are pressing and pushing the older generation to start acting. So I think that this is also a very important thing that we elderly people can learn, that is kind of sensitivity and need for action in this area.
Yeah, thank you. So we had great examples.
One thing is also just a structural thing. Like for us in ReGeneration, we have an age limit on the board, and to be a paid employee and to be a member of the working groups. But we also have an advisory committee, which we have meetings with about 5 or 6 times a year. And they are made up of more established adult professionals, if you could say that. Advisors from the Nordic Council of Ministers, from local institutions to Nordic Council in Lithuania, and so on and so forth, and other organizations in general. So we have the intergenerational conversations where we then learn and aspire from and to each other, just so that it doesn't get too involved in the sense that we like barricade ourselves around in like a youth bubble and say, we demand these things, and throw them to the adults and then say, fix it, and we're going to stand like this outside and wait for them to do it. But we're actually going to engage with them and say, this is what we propose. Don't take it away from us. This is our ideas, and we're going to work hard to establish them, but also actually respect the need for collaborative effort to make anything severe change. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that's definitely, I think, one thing to keep in mind. To maybe if the youth has a lot of idea, has the power to push, for example, for climate change, we should still learn from older generations to use their techniques, to use the structures we have, to use the processes, as Krystyna put it, to then collaterally learn together intergenerationally and push forward. I think that's a very important aspect to take from this discussion. And one thing that I would also be interested in is, if we say that youth has a lot of power, has a lot of ideas, how can they get heard? Do you think they need to get into, for example, democratic institutions because they're outside now, or are there maybe other ways of participation? We have the idea of the youth platform. Would this be one tool you can imagine that youth voices are heard? Are there other ways than the democratically traditional ones, to be in a party, to get engaged there, or do you see other tools and possibilities, for example, the Baltic Sea Youth Platform, for youth to get heard and involved?
If I can, sorry, Julia, for cutting you out. To me, there's like 2 answers to this. First is influence part, and second is to get, taken seriously, so to speak. I think for us as youth, it's very important to continue pressing our, I would say, severe advantage when it comes to both social media and online communication in general. The voice of the youth is very, very, very loud, even though it's like the group is smaller, significantly smaller than the adult professional section. And it's just because we're very good at communicating our voice outwards. And that is one thing that doesn't necessarily change a lot, but that makes almost all organizations on the political level have to take us seriously, because, okay, this is like 50% of the loud voices outside our buildings. We should probably listen to them. So continue this open debate and actually be very out there in our communication and more transparent than has been a custom in the past few decades when it comes to politics. And then to this, of course, the Baltic Sea Youth Platform and other platforms of this sort is then propelling this movement upwards. But without being a big voice in the beginning, no one's going to take it seriously, and no one's going to invite us to these Baltic youth platforms and other platforms in general. So it's just say that when we get in for the platforms, then we actually get a collaboration going that will spiral us forward. Yeah.
Julia, you also wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to
Go
say
ahead.
that when I was younger, I always thought that to change something, I really need to be a politician, but I never wanted to be a politician. It's not my cup of tea. I always were afraid of public speaking, to be honest, and I'm still a little bit. But I realized that if I want to change something, I should start changing for starting by myself. And in Poland, for example, we have a lot of, and I know that's not only in Poland, we have a lot of youth council, city council for young people, where we can apply, and we have a meeting session when we can say what is important to us, discussing, and also talking with politicians and showing our point of view. There are also many different points of view. We can write different letters. And last time during the Baltic, during the BSR event that was digital last week, I guess, it was mentioned that it also there were a group of young people who were trying to put they put a lot of effort to making an open letter to some politician in case that they are in a situation that were very important to them. And they noticed that nothing is going on, so they started counting days, and then they showing people how long it takes when no one listened to them. And then politicians were really forced by other people, but also oldest, who said, it's not fair when someone sends letter, you should answer for that and take some real action on this. And I think that it's always good to be in a group, but we can start by ourselves. We can ask our friends, we can ask our cousins, our family members, our colleagues from work, or from our university groups, or from different schools when you're at high school, for example. And I think that there are many options how we could start being active. If there is nothing when we can apply to, maybe we should create a new group.
Okay. Thank you. Remarks from the other two panelists?
If I may, I would, if I may, I would add that definitely I would think about local and regional. To me, they seem to be a great tool if they are executed properly, and if they are not, this very personal opinion of mine, if they are not going too much into politics and not becoming political tools, but they are really fora for discussion on important issues. I'd also think about one more tool that we were also discussing last week during our BSSSC Spring Youth event, and it is participatory activities, like participatory councils, which by definition have to involve people of all ages, groups, etc., etc. Only you cannot just say that you want to be a part of it. You have to be selected by ballot. But the way to have a bigger chance to participate in it, I would think, is that you politicians to really more often use this tool. And definitely, I think that international cooperation and working in those networks that I have mentioned should be a great platform for young people to participate. And as a matter of fact, I must admit that sometimes I'm a little bit surprised that there is not enough interest in being really active there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If I can add shortly, I would say there are two things to keep in mind for young people. One is being visible, because that's important. It's not, you have to be present there so that people start noticing you. And it takes time, unfortunately. And it's just repeating the message until it gets heard. And that's something which is quite often hard for young people to understand, because for them, they have said it loudly and it should be heard. But in reality, it doesn't always work like that. You have to repeat it again and again and again, and then at some moment there is a click and people suddenly start listening to you, even though you've been saying it for quite a long time. And that's another aspect of it. Changes take a lot of time, and the higher the governance level, the longer any change takes, because the structures are bureaucratic, because they are stagnatic sometimes as well, and it takes a lot of effort from young people to keep coming, keep saying. And I'm happy to say that there has been a shift in thinking, and more decision makers on all levels understand that having young people at the table is important, and it's a must-have actually. But on the other hand, we are not there yet. We are somewhere in the process, and it takes a lot of energy from everybody who is ready to contribute for us to actually get to it till the end. So the more we speak about it, the faster the time will come.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are two questions maybe that come to my mind. The first to Dmitry on what you just said. What do you think are the reasons? You mentioned that there's maybe a mindset behind it, that young people are not heard, that we have to scream very loud, get very active before we're heard. What do you think might be the reasons, and how could we make it more efficient? How could we be heard more efficiently, so that it maybe takes a bit less effort? And one question to Jonas, who mentioned that young people are very active on social media, that it's a great platform to be heard. Do you think it is sufficient in order to be heard by the traditional channel? Because what we heard now from Dmitrijs is that there's still a lack, that there's a lot of effort needed. So maybe are there distinct channels, and young people communicate on a different one than more experienced generations? Or do you think that social media has a strong impact and is sufficient to be heard? Maybe we start with Dmitry to connect to the topic we just stopped on and go back to Jonas afterwards.
Okay. Well, I would say that one thing that helps definitely is using the terminology the adult ones are using. Because to a certain extent, it's probably a psychological thing. Because you are younger, we think that you are not that clever as the rest. Let's put it this way. But again, if you use the wording, they kind of, it's easier for them to accept. But that's just a guess at the moment, I would say. No real proof for that. And there was another thought I just forgot. Sorry.
We can come back to it if you remember. No worries. We can also give the word first to Jonas, and then let me know if you would like to add on it. Jonas, what do you think about the social media aspect? Is it sufficient, or is it maybe not heard in the traditional politics and the democratic political system we have at the moment?
Depends on what kind of communication you are looking for. I mean, it's just a difficult answer to question to answer. If you want to say like what is best for a politician to have his or her opinions heard immediately, definitely social media is like the only way possible to do that. I mean, I guess you can be on television, but Flow TV is a dying breed. It's all about Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, stuff. Even though I don't personally a big fan of those channels, that's just the way that it is. I either accept it or lose. That's basically how it is. Then when it comes to internal communication, there's so many different ways you can do that. I mean, in our organization, we use Slack. After we've been using emails for like a year, that's just 20 emails. It gets messy, it gets shady. It just internal communication. It can be easily be done in a specifically programmed program. You can actually do that. For example, like Slack or Trello or whatever you can use. There's also a brilliant new thing called Actor by a guy called Vincent. So I can really recommend that. Same stuff with communication. Then when you want to communicate outwards, not to the public, but to organizations officially, then we do it by email, even though it's old school. But then we can get like signature of me, the chair, or other people who are responsible for it. And we can always backtrack specifically in the public domain and see this is what we sent. If there's any legal issues, should anything arise of the sort. So what the best way to communicate is simply depends on who you're communicating to, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Dmitry, would you like to add on the question before, or it didn't come back to your mind?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Maybe one more question that was mentioned by Dmitry before, but it would also be great to hear the other panelists on it. The question of reaching out to the rural areas. So there may be some youth that is already engaged, that is taking up, or that putting out their voices, that is participating, but on the other hand, it's hard to reach out to everyone. So what could be done? What are ways to maybe reach out to everyone in society, and maybe especially to youth in rural areas? Maybe you can tell us a bit, Julia, if you have some experiences in your current work, in your past, that you know from your friends, or challenges you see, if you don't mind.
I would say that there are many options, but mostly there, for example, a lot of events going on in biggest city like mine, but not a lot in the smallest one. I see that it's changing, and I think that it's great. For example, there's also another problem when there is an event that could a lot of people attend on that, like it's online event or something like that. We don't really know about it because of marketing probably, and I think that we can upgrade it, and I think that it could change too. But also I know that in many smallest city, for example in Dzierżgoń, it's a very small city in my region. It's also the youth council, and they are very active, and I think that's great because I'm not sure that it was specifically this one, but one of that of the youth council, there were people who were like in the primary school, so they were like teenager. They were, I think, between 9 and 12 years old, and they started being active. And even though it's not countryside, it's still very, very, very small city. They try to be active. They try to change the world. And for example, I work with Marcin Żuchowski, who works with young people in rural area with youth council from different countries around the Baltic Sea. And he told me that it's a lot of work, but it's worth to do this. So I think that we also need artists who would like to help young people, because I'm not very sure that people at, I don't know, 12 will be able to do something like that. But if they are, if they would like to be active, if they want to change the area, it's great when they have someone. It could be a teacher at the school. It could be some uncle who would like to help them. But it's always great to know that adults also want to listen to us, and I think that this is one of the ways.
Okay, thank you. Jonas, do you have experiences from your work or ideas how the engagement of all people, especially from rural areas, could be done more effectively?
Well, first of all, considering that we are a multinational organization, our rural areas, culturally speaking, is very different. So we don't have anything specifically to target that audience. But I mean, I think you know way about more the subject than I do, Julia. But I would just suspect that even in the rural areas, they also have internet connection to go and see what we have. So the way that we communicate outward is we have, of course, our social media channels. Then we can also have a sign up for our newsletter, whatever, and we have a continuous back and forth conversation. So if the people from the rural areas have anything to add, then they can do it directly through our channels. Also, we don't track the necessarily where people come from in the city or municipality when they arrive for our summit. We only track their age and nationality, and sometimes we try and have a gender balance, but usually actually that evens out by itself. When it comes to geographic speaking, no, we don't have anything to. I don't have anything to add. I think it will be easy to me to answer if we are focusing just on one country.
Yeah.
an easy answer for just in Denmark is we're so small. Like our rural areas are like right outside my window, which is also Copenhagen. So you know.
That's true. It probably differs a lot from country to country, depending on the size.
Yeah.
And the connectedness of the areas. I cannot hear Krystyna currently. Are you still
I am
with
still
us?
here.
Okay,
So
great.
Most probably you just don't see, but
yeah, I don't see you, but that's true. Do you have experience since your organization has been involved or has involved youth a lot during the past years and have them on their board? Do you have experience or ideas on this issues you would like to share?
Well, we've been thinking about my region, which is quite a big region and consisting of metropolitan area and a big area outside, which is also a rural area. And in our activities, we've been trying to reach out from the capital of the region in various ways. And one of them was that we have been trying to have events organized in different places of the region, trying to gather people, including young people from the area, so that they would not have to come to Gdańsk. It's a bit more difficult when we are organizing international events, because then the time issue and travel issue usually makes us to make it in a place, to organize an event in a place where it is really easy to reach by plane. But I could think, I do not like compulsory solutions, but I could think that if it was compulsory or strongly advised to have local councils, then they would have to be created in all the areas, including rural areas. And this could be a kind of artificial, but maybe successful way of bringing those people from the youth areas also on board. But I would say from my practice that it always boils down to active individuals. And if there is somebody really active, no matter whether it is a rural area or a bigger city, then there will be things going around this person, and this person can really initiate movement and activate people, etc. So it's about individuals.
Mm-hmm. Dmitry, would you like to add, or has everything been said?
Well, on my daily work, it's mostly about urban areas. Riga as a capital city and the UBC as a union of cities. So it's quite far from rural areas. But one thing I would say that digital solutions actually make the distance less important. And for young people who actually live in the digital world parallel to the physical world, and they don't really see the difference that much between them, it's much easier to have them involved if we have the proper infrastructure built. But then again, it's the question to the governing bodies, if the internet is there, if access to information is there, etc. So we definitely need a support from bodies on the national level, on the local level, to encourage participation of young people. But if we create the environment, it can happen very successfully, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So now we've been talking a bit about rural areas, which maybe also connects a bit to the national context. However, since it's the Baltic Sea Youth Camp, and we're also talking about the Baltic Sea Youth or the Baltic region, I've been looking a bit at the questions in the chat. Please post more if you have questions. We can come to the part involving our participants. And there's a question on the cooperation between different nations. So this regional aspect, I can read out the question. How easy or effective do you find youth cooperation between youth of different nations, when there are some cultural differences? What do you believe is most effective in overcoming these differences? Do you have experiences from your past, or can tell us about good practices, how you work with these cultural issues, or maybe let's call it multiculturalism and diversity? Let us know who would like to start. Jonas, go ahead.
I just starting because considering that is what we do in our organization. I think that I have some insight. Obviously there are some differences in culture, not just about when it comes to youth, but just in people in general. I would say, though, that youth in general, speaking, are a bit more open-minded and less more judgmental when it comes to these things, just by the virtue of people having to engage, as Dmitrijs said earlier, digitally. So there's some kind of already presupposed understanding of the cultural differences before we even meet up. That being said, when we do meet up and we do start collaborative work, we do start noting key differences, specifically in our region between the Nordic and the Baltic countries. Even more so when it comes to like for countries like Russia. So there's some difficulties there. The easiest for me has just been to focus mainly on what it is that drive them even to join the organization in the first place. Usually people don't join an SDG focused organization to be malicious. They join because they want to, promote the agenda, both for the organization but also in their own country. So some of the things that have made my job easier when I was as a chair is similar to dig into the particular issues when it comes to, for example, the agenda of our movement, also the agenda of the SDGs in general. What are the issues in those countries where they come from? I was in a panel in Lithuania where their focus was a bit different than we had in Denmark, just because their, like we could say, the goals was a bit different when it comes to what is the most present concern. And the youth there are more worried about a particular issue, maybe that is different from our country. But that is also the benefit of talking with other countries and what their issues are. We can learn from one another, and we can share strategies. So to me, it's definitely a thing that is it can be an issue that pops up, but to me, it's also a strength inherently when it actually gets sorted out, which it usually does rather quickly, because we are here for an agenda and not to just converse on cultural topics.
Thank you. Who else would like to add on the question? Krystyna?
Well, to me, the cultural differences is one of the most fascinating things in international cooperation. It can be difficult because, especially when we are working together, I don't know, arranging an event or trying to solve things, then there may be misunderstandings, because we can, one person's behavior can be understood in a totally different way than it is meant if you do not have, if you are not aware of those cultural differences. But once you are really open to the other person and you are really ready to learn, and you are curious of the other person and of those differences, then it's really fascinating when you realize how diverse we are, how rich this area of the world is. I know that it sounds like a cliche, but that has always been my impression and my experience. That's why I have loved my work so much. But you have to be open to it, and you have to be ready for that. And then when people are that way, then they really meet, because it's not about meeting physically. It's about meeting with our minds and kind of our hearts, I would say. So that's a big plus of the cooperation.
Thank you. Julia, you've also been part of the last Baltic Sea Youth Camp. You've participated a lot in the development of it and of the platform. Maybe you can tell us from your experiences how it has been and how you have countered difficulties maybe or overcome them.
Well, according to that previous question, I would say that there are both pros and cons in working in the international team. Even though our project that we are working on with my youth board, with these great people, we realized that, for example, when we have some problem in my region, in Pomorskie, the answer is in Sweden, in Kalmar, for example. But Kalmar might have some problem with other aspects, so the answer is in Bornholm. So we wanted to do something, the event that showed to young people that they should not be afraid of asking people to help, and because probably the answer for their needs exists somewhere, and it's always better to work with other people. And I think that it's always great when I could meet with people with different points of view, with a different perspective, and talk and discuss and see different aspects of the world of the same topic. And I think that it's very good that we are different, and we should be proud of our identity and also respect our differences. Because I guess that, in my opinion, this is the only way how we can cooperate, like accepting our differences, not being offended, and just talk and work together.
Thanks. Dmitrijs, can you add from your everyday work, or you have
just a couple of words? I mean, it has been said. I totally agree to everything which has been mentioned. Just mentioning Erasmus Plus is one of the tools I'm very much enthusiastic about, and something I can recommend to everybody. That was how I actually entered the youth work area, by becoming a young person who actually went to one of the youth exchanges, which totally changed my mind. And that's a good starting point for international work, for choosing what you want to do in the future, for having a variety of friends from all over the world. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, that's true. I can totally support what you said before. I did Erasmus too, and it's a great experience. And there are many programs also. It's not just if you study, but there are different ones. They also give you the possibility to internships or many more things. So I think it's a great opportunity that is given. Maybe we can see what else we have in the chat. The next question is if you can tell us a bit more about how youth can attract the decision makers' attention. So we've mentioned this a bit before, but how can they attract decision makers' attention, influence policy changes, and guide the development of policies in the Baltic Sea region? So this is a very broad field, but maybe you can tell us about some past projects that you have, as well as future ideas that could maybe come up. Someone like to start? Dmitrijs?
Krystyna wanted to start, so let's give her the floor.
Okay.
Okay, I would think, thank you, Dmitrijs. I would say that, first of all, it is important, well, in the case of any age, but for the youth, definitely too, to know what they are really expecting, and to come to the decision maker with a concrete request or proposal. Because sometimes it happens that young people do approach decision makers and they say, we want to be better heard, we want to be involved. And then when the question comes, okay, so what can we do together? There is no answer to this. So too often, I would say, the young people stop at this point that they want to be more involved. And an example from my life, again, would be the BSSSC youth network and the spring youth event, which was organized in Finland in 2018, where young people had prepared a declaration. And this declaration was very professional, I think, and it was full of very concrete ideas. And out of those concrete ideas, for instance, I think to a great extent, it was followed then by the declaration or the requests or demands at the first Baltic Sea Youth Camp. But I would say that both the Baltic Sea Youth Camp and the platform, in a way, or to a great extent, are the results of concrete expectations and pressure from young people. And I have also experienced it in contacts with my decision maker, with the head of our region. Whenever I came in and said, well, young people want to be involved, and I said, okay, I will give them the platform, the money, etc., etc. But what do they want? So you have to know exactly what you want.
Okay, that's a good thing to know. We should all remember this, form concrete ideas.
Press.
Exactly, and then step up and vocalize. Julia, would you like to add maybe.
I think that Dmitry wanted to say something before me.
Ah, true. Go ahead. Sorry, I forgot. I was too inspired by Krystyna's words. Please go ahead.
I actually wanted to say something very, very similar and refer to the declaration, which is a very nice setting or format, how to put it. It's not just we would like to have or please give us, but it's we want to contribute to have it done. And this is what we offer, and we expect you to contribute by doing something extra. So it's a kind of this partnership approach. So it's not just them doing something for us, but it's all of us doing something together so that it's better for young people and the society in general.
Thank you. Yulia.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to say, like, yeah, I agree with you in 100%. That's always better to be concrete and to prepare some points. I remember during the Southern Baltic Parliament Forum, I guess that will be the English name, we were asked to work on, they gave us declaration that we prepare already and ask us about our opinion. And I thought that, okay, we'll do something. We had some workshops, so I was like, oh, it's nice to meet, but we really did some great work. And after the few days of hard working on this declaration that was already given to us, we get output, and we said, oh, it's great already, but we could improve it. But our ideas and presenting, I'd say like just few points that could be improved. I felt really proud. Like after that, a politician came to me and said, "It's good that you were very active and you were very productive, and they really appreciate that, and they wanted to talk with us, with young people." Then I was 18, and I was shocked that people really came to me like, "Oh my God, some really important politician," and I recognized them from media. And I was shocked that they really wanted to talk to us. And they said that that's very great that we are active, that we are concrete, and we would like to change something. And always remember not to be afraid and to speak up and be prepared as good as you can.
Okay, Jonas, how is it with the ReGeneration 2030 movement? Do you have some very concrete requests, or is it a broad thing you're fighting for?
Yes, currently our biggest goal is to make me the head of the European Commission, but that's like a long term goal. I'm kidding, obviously. We are on our first
regional.
On our first summit in 2018, we made a manifesto with specific 3 visions, 3 demands, and 3 commitments from our side, which we shared with every single parliament in the region. And that has also been our currently like the document that guided us and our strategy for multiple years, and also is the groundwork from which we make our next 3 years strategy plan. So it has been received quite well because it's quite clear. The only issue is that we are issues, so to speak, is that we are trying to address all the SDGs, which naturally just makes it a bit less easy to make a pinpoint demand. So we're trying to also make it so that every year when we have new plans, new demandments, we are asking specifically for some SDGs, and we are trying to delve further into that and actually use some of the sub goals. And we all know the 17 goals, but there are also 169 sub-targets, and we're trying to use some of them to pinpoint explicitly what is it we want in what area. And so just so there's actually a proposal that they can discuss in the parliament, rather than just us saying, "Hey, we want to join," and they can say, "Okay," and then go back to their own business, right? So it's give them something concrete in their hands they can take a look at. Definitely, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we had the broad approach and then some very concrete examples. That is great. And going on to the next question in the chat that relates to mass media and public opinion, and how sometimes some countries in the region might have a more negative image than others, and how we could tackle the situation, or what young people could contribute to the situation of public images of some countries or public opinion, and what could maybe be done. The specific example that is mentioned is Russia, and what could be done by young people to counter this issue. Any ideas from our panelists? Maybe we could link it to what we said before regarding intercultural dialogue. I think we've already heard quite a bit on this, and could lead to a better mutual understanding, also regarding public opinion.
Yeah, I can like quickly throw in this specifically when it comes to Russia. Oh yeah, sorry, I just took your word, Krystyna. Specifically when it comes to I'm just going to continue anyway. When it comes to Russia, is that we all know that it's just a bit tougher to have a good dance with Russia than it is to other countries in the region. That is just a generic thing going forward, which also makes it so that when we have people who reach out for us from the region, the amount of energy and passion that those people have is just amazing, because the cultural drift is not as common there as it is in, for example, Sweden, right, where everybody's like, "Whoa, it's Jesus and blah, blah." So it's when we have to have an organization that reaches out from us from there, it's just it's a powerhouse every single time, which is just interesting. The diversity when it comes to the Russians is amazing. Also, it's a big country, so there's so much to it. It's hard to just say this is how Russia is. But I agree. I think we do talk about Russians a bit too like the bad neighbor on the street, even though it's a big and very, very important part of the region. Yeah.
Would anyone like to add, or does everyone feel like important things to say? I think Krystyna wanted to say something.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt.
No worries.
I think that, well, media have a tendency to concentrate on negative things. And of course, negative things do happen. And it is important always, and no matter what the times are, to really have contacts, direct contacts. And then when people do meet, and when they see that there is a totally different picture of the other country, or the other region, or the other people, then they have this can only result in a complete picture, or more complete picture. So we should never just stop by reading or listening to what is in the media. We should try to have as much exchange, student exchange, people to people, to discuss, talk, and be open. And then we see that the world is not white and black, but it has all the shades, and it is really interestingly diverse again. And there are no ideal countries, or no ideal groups or nations or whatever. Mm-hmm. We are all mixed and consist of different kinds of people, and it's good to learn that.
Just to add shortly to what Krystyna just mentioned, well, first of all, I totally agree that meeting in person is the best way, or providing an opportunity to meet in person is the best way to actually create understanding of another country or the people in that country. And one more aspect to address, I would like to address, is media literacy, something we have been paying attention in the last couple of years to actually give young people the skills to filter what is the news, what is fake news, where is propaganda, where is reality, and how we ourselves can actually contribute to development of the news. So that's something also to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's also something we encountered now during the health crisis, that it's very important to filter or to look at all the media and the information we get. Yulia, would you like to add, or?
I would like to say that I work with Russian almost every day, and I would like to say that young people don't really see the country that we came from. Now, when I met people, I don't ask them, "Oh, where are you from?" and then judge them because of this. But I'm just talking to them, and I can, let's put it more, judge them and by the words that they say, but the things that they do. I can just not. I would never do this to anyone. that when you are from Russia, you are less worth, or you will speak less in our organization, because I think that it's not the way that we would like to follow. In my youth board in Euroregion Baltic, we all are equal, I would say. And it's not matter that you are from Sweden, you can speak longer, you are from Denmark, don't care about time, you can do whatever you want, and you are from Russia, the best way you don't ask, it's not the way that we work. We are the same. And I have many friends from Russia, and I never judge them because the place they live, it's not the way how we treat each other. I think it's changing. I can see it even when I'm talking to my grandmother, she had some stereotype but not as much as she had before. I start talking to him, and I think that the best way to stop stereotyping is just meeting people and see that you cannot say that you are better because you came from better country, because you don't need visa, because you have different letters in your alphabet. I would say that it's not the way how we communicate this day. Young people don't really care. I would say that it's good to have people all around the world because they had also different point of view. And it's always worth to have friends from different countries, but it's not our criterion that we look at others.
Okay, thank you. Maybe that's also something the younger generation can add, that this interconnectedness, this meeting in person, actually getting to know the person and working together in this sense. Thank you. It's a great experience. And then maybe we can have another question from the chat, and it concerns the question how we can evaluate with whom to ally. So it's mentioned that often young people fight for something and they spend more energy fighting against their opponents than actually fighting, or than actually evaluating if they might have similar interests, or if everyone is looking for the same goal but people have different approaches. So how can we get together from different spectrums of the political scene, of different ends, and how we can benefit from young people living in the Baltic Sea area? What can they, wait, how's the question phrased? Yeah, how can we evaluate better with whom to ally and to work together for a common goal?
I would say, to me, this idea that young people are spending more energy attacking the opponent, even though they might agree. First of all, if they agree, they're not the opponent. Second of all, I don't think that's something that young people do that adults don't do. I mean, attacking the other wing than your political party has just been something you do for the last 4,000 years. And we can discuss that is stupid, and I completely agree with anyone saying that is stupid. Of course, you should attack ideas, not colors and parties. That being said, though, it is also important to keep in mind this, as I mentioned earlier, youth washing, but also the greenwashing that's been going on for the last 2 decades by the mostly right-wing parties and conservative parties, suddenly being very engaged in the discussion of climate debate because they can see, shit, here's all the votes, better have an opinion on it. Way climate, right? So of course you're standing there skeptical, saying, well, you did have the opportunity for last a long time to actually have an opinion on this, but suddenly you do because of what, right? To me, this is like we can go all the way back to 1987 with the Bonnen report, the first report on climate action. Then we have the first COP in 92 in Berlin. Then we have the Kyoto Protocol in 97. Then we had all the COPs in zeros in the COP 15 in 09. Then we have the HGs in 15, the Paris Agreement in 15. And all these times, no one on the right wing listened. They didn't give a shit, basically, to say it frankly. Suddenly, Greta Thunberg comes out, and now they listen. I mean, of course we're skeptical. Like, well, you have the time to actually listen to the science, and everybody's saying this is the way forward. Suddenly, there's an Instagram story that's trending, and you are on board. So that way, yes, I can see why people say we're skeptical to your area of the political spectrum because you have been silent for so long. Of course, if you want to go out and you actually have the power to do something and you do change, that's great. Doesn't matter from what party that the progressive politics come from. It's just usually a certain area that politics come from, and not another one. I think that's also important to keep in mind.
Thanks. Comments from our other panelists? Or not too many? If you wouldn't like to add, that's okay too. No, okay. Because I think also Jonas had made a good link to what we started with, because one of the problems we talked about in the beginning was the youth washing that he mentioned. Well, Julia mentioned that it is a problem that the youth has no voice. They don't get the stage they might need. And afterwards, we talked about our intergenerational learning so that we could actually benefit from each other. The younger generation could maybe learn from the knowledge of older ones, of the processes we use, the tactics we could use. Well, we could contribute in the sense of communication. We have access to all the social medias, we have knowledge about digitalization. So we could get our voices heard on these social medias, maybe, as Dmitrijs said, using the terminology of adults. This could help us to make our claim a bit stronger, to use the same language as the ones that are empowered. So, and I think further, we talked about the great diversity we have in our region, and that while it might be sometimes a difference or a difficulty, it could also be a great strength, as long as we stay curious to develop or to discover these differences. We can actually find a lot of answers, as Julia said, that they might be out there. We don't have them in our region, but we could find them somewhere else. So I would like to ask if there are last remarks from our panelists. Please, anything you would like to add on the topic? Let me know.
Just one remark, something we actually mentioned in the very beginning of the conversation, and following what's happening in the chat about the Hansa League, we have been quite active recently in. I would say it's useful not to be building extra structures. It's better to make the most use of already existing ones and focus on contributing to the work which has been started and supporting those people who have been in work, working on specific issues, just to save energy and not to start from the beginning. Because there is a lot of history of participation, of inclusion, of active being active in the region, and I think that it's important to build on what is already there, not to be rebuilding the system every 2-3 years.
Okay, thank you. More comments from our other panelists?
That young people do follow the social media of all our numerous organizations and initiatives.
Okay.
And if they do that, there is a lot of interesting, I would say, information there and invitations to initiatives like this one. So please do follow and please do join and be active.
I think it's great. More comments? Otherwise?
I would say to young who are listening to us that don't stop and still keep trying and trying, because even though they might be one failure and another one at the end is a success. And I know that now I sounds like some coach, like you can do this or something like that, but it's true. It's up to us. If we will be motivated, we will find some way to talk about topics that is important to us. And we will find other people with whom we will be stronger, and more people might be involved in the same. So still try to find people with whom you can work, or if you would like to do it on your own. But still keep trying, and good luck to all of you who are just starting, or who who are oldest but still are very active.
Thank you, Yulia. I think these are very motivating words.
Yeah, and for me, my last comment will be twofold. One of them is to back up Julia's beautiful sentence about you have to keep on fighting. You are actually very, very powerful. You do have a lot of impact, So please never back down, stop the fight. One more thing also is, while you are fighting this fight, also keep the adults, so to speak, or the more professionals in check. We all live in a democracy where we have to remember that the people who give them their job, the parliamentarians, is us, the voters. It is the people. Usually, when people don't do the job we ask them to do, you fire them. Of course, I'm not saying to start a revolution. I think that's not going to be good. But to also actually keep the individuals you vote for in check, you can do that by sending them emails. You can send them suggestions through your organization, signed by all the members if you want, even send a picture of 20 people standing here, arms in arms, saying we really want you to deliver on the things you promised on your campaign, or whatever it is. Because we know what happens usually is once they get into office, it takes a slight change to something a bit more secure, which secures them a second term. It's our politics. So do keep a check on that as well.
Thank you. I think we had very great last remarks, and I don't have anything to add to this. So what we learned from this inspiring panel discussion, I think, is that we have to step up, get vocal, and as we heard, put forward very concrete claims and requests. And as long as we do this, we can maybe connect also on the Baltics Youth platform, and then we look to a very prosperous future with all our involvement. Thank you very much to everyone. And I wish a good evening to all of us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.